The Secrets of Movies and TV Shows is brought to you by the StarQuest Production Network and is made possible by our many generous patrons. If you'd like to support the podcast, please visit sqpn.com/give. You're listening to Coffee and Cinema, part of the Secrets of Movies and TV Shows podcast. I'm Dom Bettinelli, and I'm here with Father Chip Hines.
And I'm Father Chip Hines. Here I am.
Father Chip. So we're about to... we actually went into the theater. We just got out, and we saw the new movie, Captain Marvel.
We did.
And now that we're done, we've gone to a nearby coffee house, Cafe Nero, it's called. We've got a coffee. I have a nice brewed coffee, and you have...
I have a Cafe au lait.
Cafe au lait. That's coffee with milk, folks, but fancy.
That's right.
So, first we're going to give you our spoiler-free impressions of this new movie in the Marvel Universe, and then we'll give you a warning for you to stop if you so choose, and then we'll go talk about some of the spoilers. Before we... I just, we should probably say before we get into this is our first time doing this particular part of the Secrets of Movies and TV Shows podcast.
That's right.
So we're out in public. It's sort of a test run to see if it works out. So we're going to have to deal with the noise and people around. And that's fine. It's kind of a different sort of podcast that we're doing. So first impression. This is so Captain Marvel. It's the new Marvel Studios Avengers universe movie. It features Carol Danvers, but not the Superman DC Comics Carol Danvers, which is very confusing to those who are not comic book aficionados, who is Captain Marvel. And it takes place in the 90s. That's the time frame it's set in. And so... First impressions. What did you think of the movie, just overall, to begin with?
Well, I mean, the special effects were good, and it was an interesting hero. It was a very different origin story than we get from most of the superheroes that we know and love.
Right.
And so I liked that. I really did.
We dropped right into the action, right at the beginning.
Yeah, right at the beginning, and she has a name. She's called Vers, and
Veers,
Veers, yeah,
like the general from Star Wars,
right? So it's we don't know that we know that she's Carol Danvers because we are outside of that universe, but she doesn't know that she's Carol Danvers,
right?
And she thinks she's a Kree warrior,
right. And again, we don't want to get too much into the spoilers of
it. No, I know, but that's a pretty basic...
Right. But early on, we know that we find out that she's getting these memories, like right off the bat.
Oh, it's right in the opening of the movie.
Right. In the first couple minutes, we find out that she's got these memories of human life. Right.
Yeah.
So, but overall, you enjoyed the movie?
Overall, I mean, I think...
Comparing it to other Marvel...
I didn't like it as much as I liked the Avengers or Captain America, there was something about it that kind of just bugged me, and we can get into that later. But even just the cutesy music that they chose for different scenes, I thought it was like, come on, really?
Okay, yeah, I think I know what you're saying, and we'll get more into that in the spoiler part of this.
So I mean, it was hard to listen and watch the movie and take some of the parts seriously. I mean, I loved seeing Nick Fury.
Yes.
90s version Nick Fury. And
the digitally
de-aged Samuel L. Jackson.
Yeah.
Right. And so I liked seeing that. And he was great, as he always is.
Samuel L. Jackson. Yes.
He's always good. And so, yeah, that was enjoyable. And just kind of seeing we've seen all these movies, and now we kind of know some of the backstory that we didn't know before if you weren't a comic book person.
Right. So, so far we've seen 40s and 50s S.H.I.E.L.D. We've seen with the Captain America. Have we? I don't think we've really seen 60s and 70s.
Oh, really?
We saw the 80s with Guardians of the Galaxy,
right?
Very briefly.
Briefly, yeah.
And now we have the 90s,
right?
So this is all Captain America is still frozen in
right.
the glacier.
Exactly.
Tony Stark is still an idiot.
Right.
The whole go down the line.
Exactly.
We don't have any of the Avengers that we know.
Yeah, and that's kind of one of the cool things about this movie is that she's it,
right?
And so I found that kind of, I don't know, comforting is not the right word, but like it was nice to know that all this stuff was happening,
right?
And it's already happened. We've already seen it. But this is like the nucleus, the genesis of it all.
Right.
And that is fascinating. That part I loved.
Yeah.
That part I really loved. And I loved her backstory, right. On Earth and stuff. And I don't want to give anything away.
Yeah.
So those things I liked a lot.
And certainly had a bunch of twists and turns to the story. I would agree. It's a good movie. Certainly better than Thor: Dark World.
Yes, most anything's better than
right.
Thor: Dark World.
Right.
I mean, especially when you compare it to Ragnarok, which I liked.
Yes, right. Ragnarok was great.
Yeah.
I liked. I think I liked this maybe a little more than Avengers: Infinity War.
Really? Okay.
Infinity War was good. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But it felt like it was an incomplete story.
It's a cliffhanger.
Right.
Yeah. It's like Empire.
But there's so much going on, so many moving pieces, so many people, so many characters, and
right.
Heroes and villains.
Exactly.
And there's no way to do it justice in a 2-hour movie like Infinity War.
It would have to be a TV series where they could spread it out over time.
Right. Whereas this was complete in itself. Now, one thing to point out is anyone who's seen Avengers: Infinity War and stayed to the post-credit sequence.
Yes.
I mean, that's really the beginning, in some ways, of this movie, which is we see Nick Fury just as he's about to be. Spoilers for Avengers: Infinity War, I suppose. Don't listen to this if you haven't seen Avengers: Infinity War. Just as he's about to be disintegrated by Thanos, he hits the beeper that calls Captain Marvel. Has her symbol on it. And people who know that that's Captain Marvel. So that sort of sets the stage for this movie,
right?
And then. We're obviously the next Marvel movie coming out in April 26th is Avengers Endgame, which is the continuation of the end of the cliffhanger.
Yeah.
So obviously this has to feed that in some ways. So that's not really a spoiler to say that. So we should probably, we're not going to get much further without spoiling it. Right. So let's give you guys a chance now. Pause it. Go see the movie. Then come back to this one.
Do something. Yes.
Exactly. So that's your spoiler warning. Counting down 3, 2, 1. All right. Okay. So the big twist in this has to do with Carol wakes up. She's a Kree warrior, as you mentioned, and of course I'm not. Again, I say I'm not a comic book aficionado, but I'm sitting there going. But I've seen Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I've seen all the movies, and I'm thinking, aren't the Kree the bad guys? and it was, I was very confused. And in fact, this movie doesn't feed you anything off the bat.
No,
you kind of have to either guess or just go.
Yeah.
and just, experience it as it goes. And it turns out, yes, the Kree are the bad guys.
Right.
And if you don't know that going in, that actually makes it a little bit more enjoyable in one sense.
Oh, absolutely.
I prefer to not have the twists spoiled.
I did not see it coming. I didn't know that was going to be the twist.
I started to suspect, especially when I saw, I can never remember the actor's name. It's an African name, so I can't remember his name. Uh-huh. But he was in Guardians of the Galaxy. He was Ronan's right-hand man, who ended up losing the fight with Groot in the ship. And so he was one of her, her squad.
Her pals, yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, Kree, they're bad guys. So that's the big twist. And especially once they call Ronan the bad guy from Guardians of the Galaxy on the Kree phone.
Right.
And so it was interesting. The other thing I didn't get, it was the Kree are supposed to be blue, right? And some of them were. But who is the guy who is her boss?
I'm not
why
sure.
wasn't he blue? And that was confusing me a little bit. But like, so let's get into the to the story itself. You know, so they have a limiter put. She has these abilities. This can shoot blasts out of her hands. Photon blast, she calls them.
There's some sort of device on her neck that
we think is what's powering it.
Right.
But it turns out it's limiting it.
Right.
They control it.
Right.
And meanwhile, she's training with this guy.
Right.
And then has to meet the Great Intelligence, which is the AI that runs the Kree Empire.
Right.
And then they have to... they're under attack by these bad guys called the Skrull, who are shape-shifting orcs, essentially.
Yeah, they're kind of weird-looking dudes.
Well, and that was another great twist, which is we're programmed by pop culture to see these creatures. They're shapeshifters.
They're ugly.
They're pointy, long pointy ears.
Yeah.
We're programmed to think of them as those are the bad guys. Right. These guys who look like us, they're the good guys. Right. And those are the bad guys.
Right. And that's what I thought initially.
Right.
I mean, I was fooled.
I certainly was.
I was fooled. Yeah, and I guess that beginning part was very confusing, and because it jumps right into it, and you're trying to I was trying to piece together what was real and what was Carol's life, right, and then what was this Kree thing that was going on, right, and so it didn't really make sense until the end that what had happened was she had been shot down and taken back to the Kree world. What's that? Was that Jude Law?
No.
Wasn't that Jude Law that played the boss?
Yes. Jude Law.
So
it was Annette Bening who played.
It was Annette Bening.
Yeah.
That was the interesting twist.
Yeah.
So, I don't know if we need to explain the whole movie, but I just
hopefully people have seen it by now.
Yeah, especially if you're listening at this point. So what happens. But I guess for me, the cute part that I was talking about before was she gets the restrictor off, and then they start playing I'm Just a Girl.
Right.
And it's like
the girl power stuff.
Really? Oh. I didn't know she was a girl?
So
with her long blonde hair, her skin tight suit.
We could talk a little bit about that because I think that's an important element, because there's been a lot of girl power.
Yeah.
Captain Marvel is girl power. Now, Captain Marvel has been girl since 1982 in the comics. This is not a new thing.
I got no problem with that.
Right. So some people have had issues with it, but that's not really
that's not the point.
I can enjoy this movie as it's Captain Marvel. I can enjoy it. I can enjoy that it's a woman who's kicking butt. That's not new in movies.
Nope,
Scarlett Johansson's been doing it in these movies for a while.
I have no problem with that.
It's the people have to turn it into a big thing. That's that's what bugs me.
That's the thing.
Everybody on both sides turn into a culture war.
That's true. And they, and I mean, and I read a couple of reviews, and the New York Times was all over it. This is woman empowerment, blah, 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 and they go totally going over the top, right?
Right.
So now I know I'm going to see the movie with you. Yeah. And I'm like, oh, is this going to be this? Is this movie going to piss me off? Pardon my French. Yeah. And it didn't. Which was good.
Right.
I mean, there were cute parts, like I said.
Yeah.
But, overall, I had no problem with her being the hero and her being...
Right.
And
Brie Larson was great.
She was awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, she's certainly, in the movie, a lot more interesting than she's been in real life.
Talking about
the movie.
Interesting.
And I find that her portrayal in the movie is excellent. I think she does a great job, and the character is well written. But Brie Larson talking about
what it all means
has been, I think, annoying.
Yeah. I mean, it's part of an unfortunate impulse in Hollywood to make their movies are the most important thing going on.
That's right.
They're changing the world by making a movie.
It's a comic book movie, kid.
Right. We enjoy it, entertain us, and yes, it can inspire. Movies can inspire kids. Heck, I've been inspired by Star Wars. The course of my life has been shaped in some ways by movies and TV shows and books.
I hear you.
That's certainly there. And I don't have a problem with them making girls excited about superheroes.
I don't either.
I like that my girls like superheroes or Star Wars and stuff like that. I don't have any problem with that.
Me either.
It's turning it into men versus women thing.
Right.
On both sides, like I said, on both sides, there was a controversy that like Rotten Tomatoes and some of these websites were getting reviews of the movie before it was out from people giving it 1-star reviews.
Right.
Because they are hating it going in. And I'm like, no, this is not how it's supposed to work.
I'm looking at you, Midnight's Edge.
I like Midnight's Edge for some things. Like some of his analysis of the business of Hollywood is really good. We've talked about him on Secrets of Doctor Who and Secrets of Star Trek.
I like him. I like the show. I like I watch the YouTube channel all the time. So,
but a lot of these guys are out there, and they're over the top,
right,
in one direction. But then there's the reaction in the other direction, and again, like everything has to be a conflict now. Right. And let's just enjoy our cool superhero movies.
Well, that would be nice, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Except that everything in the world is a battle now.
Right.
Everything's politics.
Well, everything's politics.
Yeah.
Now. Yeah.
And our politics is a battle, and it's too bad because, before all this, men and women coexisted pretty well, and
for the most part,
kind of had to.
Right.
It's how the species continues to thrive.
Right. There was some cooperation there.
Yeah. So, I think having powerful women characters is a good thing, and I think because this Captain Marvel has been a woman for a long time, it felt a lot better for me than some of the other things that have been going on.
Right.
With changing characters, gender, and everything else.
Basically, a lot of movies are being remade.
Yeah.
And just where as a woman, and it's like are you doing this because it's the better story, or just because it's a gimmick that you want to use?
Well, I know you and I don't agree on Doctor Who, and but that's part of the issue for me.
Right.
And so, but I want everybody to be able to enjoy the comic book movies.
Right.
That's basically my stance on it.
Yeah.
And I wish that we could without being pushed on either side.
Without it becoming a cultural battleground.
Exactly.
I agree.
I think that's the whole key. Yeah. But I think sometimes the filmmakers see an opportunity.
Yeah.
And I think they did with some of the music they chose, specifically with Captain Marvel. And although I will say this, there's a scene at the end, and this is spoilers, so I'm going to talk about it. That scene at the end where she tells him, her boss character, Jude Law, I don't need to prove anything to you.
Right.
That was great.
Right. Well, that's not a guy or girl thing. That's just the student has become the master.
Right. and I, it could be seen as a guy-girl thing.
Right.
By some. And I think, I just think it was a powerful scene where she's sort of like taken over.
Well, on the other hand, the AI, the great intelligence, took the form of a woman, and she kicked her butt too.
She did. The AI it's not neither male nor female, right? I mean, it becomes who you think it should be.
Right. Exactly.
So she thought when she went into the great intelligence, it was Marvel. And so she had to kick Marvel's butt.
That reminds me of how interesting it was. Not once in this movie is she called Captain Marvel. Mm-hmm. Like, there wasn't a single moment.
Not even at the end.
Not even at the end. In fact, Marvel, and that could be confusing to some people.
Right.
Oh, wait, who's Captain Marvel? Was it the woman who's dead?
There's that scene at the end with her washing dishes with Nick Fury.
Right, where he says Marvel.
He says Marvel. And I think that's kind of going to be the kickoff spot of that.
Yeah, that's true.
Because he kind of names the superheroes.
Yes, he does. Yeah. He does. It's interesting. Also, we do find out how Nick Fury loses his eye.
Yeah.
To a flurker.
A flurkin. Flurkin?
Yeah, flurkin.
It looks like a little cat.
Yeah. I think that was a great running gag.
It was.
Now, is every cat a flurkin? Because are cats aliens? Because if they are,
that's true.
It explains a lot.
It does explain a lot. It explains a lot about cats and their behaviors, especially towards me. The Flurkins. Yeah, that was so funny.
That was really good. We do find out that Skrull have Australian accents.
Yeah, that was an interesting.
Which was, the character, the actor who plays that is the guy who did Krennic.
Right.
In Star Wars Rogue One.
Yep.
So that was cool.
Well, he's becoming the go-to guy for these movies, it seems.
I've noticed that. Which was, again, another interesting casting choice because it leads you to believe that he's the bad guy because he always plays the bad guy.
Because he always plays the bad guy. Yeah, exactly.
So that was good.
And I like that the little kind of it wasn't a backstory per se. It was sort of the shift of them being refugees and they're trying to fight their way to a home world.
Well, it's all great movie twists that kind of make you like stop, almost like everything freezes, and then you reassess everything that you've just seen in a different way. Like M. Night Shyamalan was great for that in The Sixth Sense and in Unbreakable. In both of those movies. Right. He totally like. You just kind of like,
Yeah, exactly. And when he's good, he's good.
Shyamalan, yes. Yeah.
I think I need to see it again.
Yes.
And when I see it again, at least I'll know what's going on and I can pay attention to other things.
And I think with Copy Cinema, we're doing these sort of
first impressions,
hot off the press, right out of the cinema. But but we'll also continue to do the long form later on once we've had time to digest. Where we're sitting down in the studio, discussion of the layers and deeper meanings and that sort of stuff. Exactly. But I think this has been good. Hopefully the audio is good. We've got music.
We don't know
playing above it. So no one no one will ever hear this. But
that's okay.
In any case, I do want to kind of sign off by saying, what did you folks think of Captain Marvel? If you've gone and seen it, or what we've said about it, are we off base? Are we on target? We want to hear from you. So go to sqpn.com/secrets or the StarQuest Facebook page, facebook.com/StarQuestMedia. Leave us some feedback or send us an email to secrets@sqpn.com. Until next time, Father Chapines, thank you for joining me for Coffee and Cinema. And once again, I'm Don Bettinelli.